Yes. Hey guys, thanks for coming. I'm Shalin, and I would love to tell you guys a little bit about our game Detective Dotson, how we're building it, the technical challenges, some interesting things that we're trying with it, and yeah, hope to make it a fun interactive session and get some questions from you guys. It's really hard to see through these. I did not think about that when I did this. That's our website. Please check out our game. There's more info there. It would be great if you guys head on over and we have a demo that you guys can play. Would love that, and obviously would love to hear your feedback once you play the game. A bit about me, I've been in the games industry for 20 years. I was in the US for 11 years where I got to work at Pixar Animation Studios. There I got to work on 6 different films from Toy Story 3 to Finding Dory. And then I was also at Electronic Arts where I worked on the game Spore. I was on the Spore team from when it was just a prototype with 10 or 15 people all the way to when it shipped, and it was like 150 people. So very lucky, I got an opportunity to work in world-class film and world-class game companies and see how the sausage is made. And now I work at Masala Games. I'm the director of Masala Games. I moved back to India, started my own company, and we were primarily a services business, but now we're taking a bet on ourselves with our first game, Detective Dotson. So Masala Games is a totally remote company with 30 folks all around India, and we're always looking for great folks to join us. So definitely reach out to me if you like what we're doing and would like to contribute. So what are we going to talk about today? I'd like to show you Detective Dotson first to set some context. And then I want to divide this talk sort of into Unreal Engine and Unity, but also in terms of characters and world building. So we'll kind of cross paths and go between Unreal Engine and Unity and characters and worlds and kind of understand what we're trying to do, why we're doing it, and all of that. Let me start by showing you a little bit about the game. This is a gameplay trailer for Detective Dotson. Is there a way to bring audio? Mukund, is there a way to bring audio in? Yeah. Is there now? While we're getting that set up, I guess I could talk a little bit about the game. It's an adventure game that is set in modern-day India, and you play as Detective Dotson, who kind of looks like this. And he's not very good at being a detective, but trouble seems to find him, and he struggles his way through life just like all of us do. There we go. Yeah, so that's the game, but that's not all. Remember how I said that I got to work at Pixar and at EA? So as a company, we have DNA both in films and in games. So we're also making Detective Dotson as a 3-part animated miniseries. And I'd love to show you the trailer for the cinematic version of Detective Dotson.
Very interesting. You're just reading narratives. I can't play detective anymore, man.
So, are you gonna tell him, or should I do it?
Oh, big city detective. All right, so We're crazy enough to build a game and a show at the same time. How are we doing it? That's what I'm going to talk about today. Also, the way we've set this up is the show, which is the cinematic content, is all filmed in Unreal Engine. And the game, which we want to be available on all platforms, mobile, PC, console, all of it, is being made in Unity. So from day one, we decided that we're going to send the same content to Unreal Engine for cinematic output, and the same content to Unity for interactive output. So, and as soon as we started doing that, we realized that there's no excuse to not do that, because the engines have evolved so much. Unreal Engine, for example, has really blurred the lines between cinema and games. And Unity has made it so easy to make highly portable games that as technologists, it's our responsibility to build a pipeline that will cater and enable the needs of the business to basically remove any restrictions. And from day one, if we want, we can be on all platforms in the highest possible fidelity while playing to the strengths of those individual platforms. What I mean by that is we know that Unreal Engine has a really high quality, beautiful looking output, right? So how do I make the same assets look really beautiful in Unreal Engine, but also make them really performant on a mobile phone running in Unity, right? It's not that hard to do if we know that we're doing that from day one. And that's kind of what I want to inspire you guys and what I want you guys to take away from this talk, which is that if you plan from day one, this actually isn't that hard to do, and it makes a lot of sense to enable. After all, what is technology if it's not an enabler, right? So as a technologist, you can enable your studios to shoot a little bit higher, do a little bit more by adapting some of these strategies. And of course, if, like what happened recently, if some engine decides to change their policies and puts you in a tough spot, having this kind of a future-proof pipeline shields you, right? It also opens you up to new opportunities, and I'll talk a little bit about how we sent the content from Detective Dotson into UEFN directly into Fortnite. That's also something we'll get into. All right, so let's get into it. We'll start with Unity and characters. Disguises are a big part of our detective game, because Detective Dotson is a horrible detective. He actually wants to be a Bollywood actor, but he's really bad at that as well. But the one thing he's done a lot is change costumes for all his auditions that he gives. And as a result of that, his secret superpower is changing disguises. So to enable that, we have a very elaborate costume customization system in our game. These are all Dotson that you can make in the game, and many, many more. All our characters are built animated in a tool called Spine, which mixes skeletal animation with image swapping, and that's how we achieve all our 2D animation. So the challenge here is that, let's say you add a new animation for Detective Dotson. That has to work in all these rotations. It also has to work for all the possible combinations of items that we might have for Dotson. So it could be a beard, it could be a dhoti, it could be a shirt, anything and everything that the player could customize. All those permutations and combinations have to work for all our animations. That's a little bit of a challenge, but again, it's something where if we know and plan from the beginning that that is the expectation and design everything with that in mind, it gets a little bit easier. These are the 4 rotations that we do in the game. And of course, for the east and the northeast, we just flip the images. And then we can extend this. So we've got a great system for Dotson where we can change all his clothes. We can simply extend this and build all the NPCs using the same system, right? What's the one thing about India that everybody says first? It's a very crowded place. So when we're making a game about India, we're going to have a lot of NPCs, a lot of characters in the world. So we better have a system to do that easily and well. So we extended the character customization system in Unity itself to basically make as many NPCs as we want. So all the NPCs are actually Dotson under the hood. And of course, we can do all sorts of variation, like replacing the skin color or the clothes color and things like that. The one nice thing one advantage we get from the artistic decision of making pixel graphics is that a lot of this content fits into very simple atlases because we can point filter and scale everything very easily, right? So that's a nice thing. I don't have my texture budget. My texture budget is not blown up if I have lots of animations and lots of rotations and lots of characters, because all my individual assets can be really, really tiny, and they can be point filtered when they blow up and look really sharp. So let me show you what we can do with this. There's some really fun things that we can achieve as a result. So this is our character creator, where we can obviously go through all the costumes and make all the variations. But we wanted to go a step further and say, okay, well, we made some fun characters. Let's do something really interesting and very Indian with it. So we made something called the head nod creator. And basically, you know this, we all do this. It could mean anything. And so we gave it some parameters, like you could raise your eyebrows, you could increase the speed of the head nod, and you get all kinds of captions in multiple languages. You could even write your own caption, hit share, and send a GIF to your friend on WhatsApp. I'm from Gujarat, so I have to put in some some Gujarati things in there. If you ask a Gujarati person how it's going, they're going to answer you and say Jalsa. So here we go. This is our guy saying Jalsa. So really fun and really fun extension of our game that also lets the players share the content, create some unique things, and send it around to all their friends and have fun and build interest in the game as a result. So that's a bit about characters in Unity and how we customize them and how we build a rich world full of characters. In Unreal, we also want the same kind of character customization because after all, it's a detective story. He's a master of disguise. And if you see these first three characters here, the Sadhu, the Mawali, and the transgender character, they're all Dotson, right? So Dotson dresses up as whoever he needs to solve the case. And so, again, using the same customization system, we're able to achieve a wide variety of characters for our cinematic content. There is one difference, though, when we go into Unreal Engine, which is that our characters are exported as image sequences. We don't have a runtime commitment, a real-time runtime commitment there. And so we just go as image sequences into Unreal Engine. Basically, it's sprite sheets. And we give it a very simple material, just pump the color into emissive and make it very rough so it won't catch too much reflective light. Add a nice shadow, and then begin animating. There is a big challenge here, though, which is that the character animation is done in Spine, which is a 2D program, but the character has to move through the 3D world because we're mixing 2D and 3D. That's when things get super duper interesting, and we have to do animation, spatial animation in Unreal Engine. So for example, here's a character. He's running and he's falling. The falling action can be animated in Spine, but his actual motion is animated in Unreal Engine. So that's a little weird thing that we didn't really think about when we started, but it's something that is definitely a challenge and must be considered. Here's the final shot for that. So all the motion was made in Spine, and then all of his spatial movement is done in Unreal Engine. And again, it's the same character that you're going to see in Unity that's now in Unreal in a cinematic context. Speaking of cinematic context, we're able to do some really fun things like track objects with the cameras. So here, the first time you're tracking that boat, and then using the sequencer. A few frames later, you're tracking this bad guy. So it's smoothly going to transition. These are just cinematic things that make storytelling so much more fun. And Unreal Engine makes it really easy. I have to pause here and make a computer graphics joke, which is that Dotson also would like to wear normal clothes. Sorry if you didn't get that, and sorry if you got it because it's a horrible joke. One experiment that we tried was that we exported normal maps for the characters along with the diffuse maps and piped them through the same pipeline and put them in the shader. What this allows us to do is make our flat characters have a little bit of rim light to them, have a little bit of thickness to them, kind of looks like an emboss filter. I'm not convinced if this is the look we want to go with or not, but I thought it was a very interesting experiment that I did want to share with you guys. And yeah, this is what it looks like. The best part is the rim that he catches. It does help in making us pop the character out from the rich environments. And then, of course, crowds. This is a work-in-progress tool that I want to show you, but we have a shot in the show where we have to fill an entire stadium with people. So we're building a tool which allows us to place these NPCs, these customized NPCs, using splines, fill out all the seats, do variations, offset the animations, all of that. And this is an early kind of version of that tool. Again, the pipeline is the same. We take the characters from Spine. We might animate them or write a tool to procedurally make chunks of them in Unity, and then output image sequences that then get laid out in Unreal Engine using a spline layout tool. Yeah, so as you can see, it's getting fuller and fuller, and eventually it needs to fill that whole thing full of people because our stadiums are huge. So yeah, that's a little bit about characters in Unreal and characters in Unity. Let me keep going. And the next thing I want to talk about is world building. We'll start with Unreal Engine here. We really wanted to show India the way it is, not some ancient place or magical place, but the India you and I live in, which is a mixture of the old India and the new India. And we really wanted to do good justice to it and make it 3D. So our 3D team has done an unbelievable job of just richly detailed environments that depict India. And I'll get into a little bit of technical specifics around challenges and what we're doing to build these worlds. By the way, artists will want to use 8K textures on everything. They will want to use 8K textures on a small flower pot in the corner. So the most important thing to explain to them when you're thinking of a cross-engine, cross-media pipeline is that you need to explain to them, okay, this asset, these shots, how much screen coverage do we think this asset is going to have? Well, ballpark, it's going to be about 500 to 1,000 pixels. Okay, that it doesn't need a map much larger than that. And that kind of logical thinking and having that cooperation with your artists will make your life a lot easier. Otherwise, like we experienced in the early days of production, you'll quickly fill up all the hard drives and all your source control with your assets that somebody got from Quixel or wherever and run into some big problems. All right. So I have a shot breakdown here that's pretty cool. It's a very simple shot, a couple of guys driving in a rickshaw, but the environment looks so cool and so real that I had a lot of people tell me, is that a video? So we started with this reference, right, of a rickshaw. We sent someone with a GoPro, took a video, and we said, okay, that's what we need to match. And we went piece by piece. So let's start by just building a road, very simple spline tool to make little organic roads, because our roads tend to be very, they tend to be a little bit more organic. We're just picking out vegetation, from Unreal Engine's Quixel library. It's good enough. And immediately you start getting into something that starts looking very plausible, very real. And that's the magic, I feel, and that's the strength, I feel, of Unreal Engine, which is it gets you to pretty-looking pictures so fast. So we dress some vehicles. Our sort of mohalla is starting to look good. We do some basic animation for the object that we're going to be traveling, the rickshaw that we're traveling inside of. We're also using nanites to keep things efficient. I think they're also working on making skinned objects have nanite. Put in some NPCs, obviously, to fill out the space. Start putting our main characters. So now we've got that great 2D and 3D mixture happening. And then comes the lighting. You can do just some unbelievable, this is my favorite part, because when we turn the lights on and turn the skies on in Unreal, it's just all your work suddenly just goes up a notch and starts looking filmic and cinematic. And there you go. I think we have the final shot coming up now, and here we go. That's the final output. It really does look like somebody sat in a rickshaw and just took a film. And of course, when you put pixel characters on top of that, our art style really comes through, and that juxtaposition is really fun. I want to do one more shot breakdown. This is an explosion shot that's pretty exciting. Let's look at the shot first. Explosion in a jail cell, lots of debris. Let's look at it slowly. We need an explosion. We need some particle effects. We need some physics to break all the debris and throw it around. And of course, our 2D characters are also in the mix. Just wind it back to show you guys slowly again what all is going on. And now we'll break it down and show you guys how we made this in Unreal Engine. So we start with the fracture tool and do a radial fracture on one of the walls. This is the main wall that's going to blow up. And then basically go around and do that for all the walls. There's a lot of very easy settings to achieve the exact amount of debris that you want. So once we've done that, we actually don't want the walls at the bottom and the top to break completely, right? So you put something called anchor fields, and that allows us to keep certain things rigid. And then you put a master field with some constraints that actually does the explosion and the throw of all the objects flying off of one of the sides. And once you have that, it's all about just making it look even more sweet with some particle effects, some debris particles, some smoke particles, some lighting flashes, and things like that. So yeah, this shows how we've done that, and we'll put it all together. So the smoke, yeah, of course we need to put in the 2D characters, animated, spatially animate them, put some lights, and then we get our shot. Cool, so that's a little bit about how we're building the world in Unreal Engine. Let's again change gears and get into Unity. So now we have to build a similar or same quality or feel of world in Unity that should run on a phone. How the hell are we going to do that? Very interesting challenge. But the one nice thing that we're able to leverage to give the richness of India is, again, the mixture of 2D and 3D, even in the environment. If you notice something about India, we're a tropical country, like a large part of the country is tropical. So vegetation is everywhere, right? So we took the decision to take sort of all the living things, including vegetation, and make them 2D, or objects that people might interact with and make them 2D. In India, we always have clotheslines or kites or some posters and stuff like that everywhere, right? It's a very full-on experience to live in India. And so we wanted to really mirror that, and this was the concept that we came up with and tried to hit in Unity. So I'll show you guys a scene breakdown of what a scene in our game looks like in Unity. So we have our character, and slowly I'll just peel back all the layers. So I'll turn off Dotson now. I'll turn off some of the initial 3D models. So that's what was 3D. We've got some 2D characters making the crowds. They're tinted to the color of the lights. We have this main kind of platform. We use some anisotropic textures here so that they look really nice. When you take this off, you'll see that basically there's a water, but the water doesn't reflect all the 3D stuff. It only reflects the backgrounds, which is good enough. Those are the kind of cheats that we need to do to run fast on mobile. All of these image planes actually move up and down with your camera, or rather inversely with your camera, so that they're always kind of giving you a vertical parallax as well, in addition to the horizontal parallax. I don't know what that pink lady was doing there. And then we have a very simple sky all the way to back. So if we bring all of that back in, we get a really nice, rich little scene. You can walk through it, experience the gameplay, and really feel immersed in a rich, colorful, vibrant experience of India. And I think the team's doing really great, and we're sort of hitting our concepts and our targets in that sense. All right, so we've talked about characters in Unity and Unreal. We've talked about world building in Unreal and Unity. UEFN is a whole other kind of thing that just happened to us because of the original decision to stay engine agnostic and make the pipeline such that we can take benefit of whatever comes next. So we were speaking to our friends at Epic, and they said, oh, we have this thing called UEFN. You can just make your own worlds inside of Fortnite. And when we looked at it, we were like, oh my God, this is the closest thing I've seen to a real metaverse that there is, and it's really fun to build. So we must have something there. So we made a world called Loot Biscuit. It's not directly Detective Dotson because, again, there's thinking to be done there about how to bring a detective game to a Fortnite audience. But for the Fortnite audience, we wanted to make a really fun playground where you can run around and collect stuff and fight each other and all of that, using the same assets that we were using to build the world for Detective Dotson. If any of you are in Fortnite, please note that code and enter that code, and you can play this right now. And I'd love to show you a little trailer of what we built. So we were able to build this in 2 weeks. And why were we able to do that with all of this content? Because we already knew that our content should be repurposable to any platform, right? We'd already planned that from day one. And so all it took was fitting the budget requirements of UEFN, which we had already gone through that process when we went from Unreal to Unity to lower the budget and make assets more efficient. And so we were easily able to repurpose our content and bring it to UEFN. So yeah, that's basically my talk. What I wanted to talk about was, as technologists, it's our responsibility to enable our companies, our business divisions to, punch harder and dream bigger. And we can leverage the strengths of all these different engines by making a pipeline that doesn't really care about any particular engine. It just maximizes the potential of all the engines. today's talk was a little bit about sort of how we achieve the things in Detective Dotson. If you guys want to know more about why we're doing this in the first place, why we are so crazy to make a show and a game at the same time, please join me at Hall 5 tomorrow at noon. I'm part of Unreal Dev Day, and I'll be going into much more detail about the why of Detective Dotson and showing some clips and stuff there as well. I will run a blooper reel for you guys now and take some questions. Thank you, everybody. I'll also take this off now. Thank you. Here we're using a tree to do lighting, an inverted tree to do nice lighting on a bus stand. And of course, we have to have our boys in blue in the game.
So what inspired you to form the art style for the character in that way?
Yeah, I get into that a bit more in my talk tomorrow, but I'll give you a quick version of it, which is I didn't want to make fully 3D characters because I know in India I have to make crowds. And how am I going to do that, right? So it's a little bit of that constraint. And then when we were attempting different art styles, at some point we did this one experiment where we took a photograph and put a pixel 2D character on top of it. And it looked so good that we were like, we've never seen anything like this. I think our audience would love this, and this would tell our story really well. We can also animate this in a much more higher fidelity than we'd be able to do with 3D animation. See, the problem with 3D animation is 3D characters look amazing when they're static and you take screenshots and marketing shots of them. But when they animate, they look like robots because it's very hard to convince a human trained eye of how a human being should move. You get a lot of leverage when you make your character cartoony and 2D in that animation, right? So this is a very well-known thing called the uncanny valley, and we wanted to stay very far away from the uncanny valley. So that's part of that decision of making these 2D characters in very rich 3D India, roaming around and having fun. Yeah, thank you.
Really interesting talk, Shalan.
Thank
It was
you.
really good to see the art and tech side balancing out when you were building the game. So I just wanted to understand mostly on the layout and the camera planning part of it. You mentioned that you would do the sprite animation, render it out, and then bring it to Unreal, and then any relative positional thing you would do, animate it here.
Yeah.
But what about the layout and camera planning?
Yeah.
That is still a complicated task when you have to do it.
Absolutely.
So what was your approach?
So sorry to repeat, but I am talking about exactly that in my talk tomorrow at noon. I'll again give you a quick version of this, which is, initially we did storyboards, right? And we did a trailer. It was a longish trailer. It was a 4-minute trailer, more like a tech concept kind of thing. And we had a lot of struggle with storyboards because all the different departments interpret the storyboards differently. The modelers are layout is thinking of them differently. Animation is thinking of them differently. Everybody's thinking of them differently. And so we decided, what if we don't do storyboards? So we actually do all our blocking in Unreal Engine. So once the concept is made saying, okay, we need a shot in a cricket stadium. The cricket stadium is modeled, we bring it in Unreal Engine. All the shots are scouted in Unreal Engine itself because the camera tools are good enough, man, right? So it's not that we don't sketch and draw to communicate with each other, but there are no official storyboards. All the blocking and layout, what you're asking, is done in Unreal. I have a whole section on that in my tomorrow's talk. Please join.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Great talk, by the way.
man.
I'm just curious, while you're talking about when you were planning and making decisions, did you come up with some kind of shader effect for 3D models for 2D pixelized look, or was this the first decision you went for?
Yeah, we've...
Because that seems like in my head, that
Yeah.
seems like a much more logical
Yeah.
sense, because over here you have much more difficulties regarding the movements and everything.
Yeah. So are you talking about characters or environments?
Characters.
The characters, yeah. Again, it's the same issue, which is, let's say I have to make a whole crowd of these, right? Do I want to do it at the simple 2D pixel level, or do I want to first make them in 3D, do a shader that downsamples them and makes them look pixelated or whatever? The advantage of what you're saying, though, is that I would not have to worry about rotation. So it's something we definitely considered because it's a pipeline that many people take, and the results are also fabulous. But in the end, we said, no, we're pretty strong in our 2D animation. We want to stay in 2D for all the character pipeline, end to end. And it's not an approach I would discourage someone from if they're confident about their sort of 3D animation and at scale, that their 3D animation, 3D character creation. We felt that we would be much stronger in telling our story with our 2D animators. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, last question before we break for lunch. Okay.
Hi.
I can connect with you later. Yeah.
You mentioned that all of this is done remote,
Yeah.
plus you have multiple engines that you work with.
Yes.
What were the challenges that you faced in terms of managing
Yeah.
work around the engine and remotely as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, one big challenge we felt was when we transitioned from in-person to remote, which was, as all of us did during COVID. When you're in person, all the art direction is so fun over the shoulder. It's very easy to sit over somebody and say, Arey, just do this, Arey, just tweak that, Arey, just, this. That's very hard on Zoom. It's a little frustrating, honestly, over Zoom to, draw and annotate and do all of that. But at the same time, after, doing it out of necessity, it became natural to us. Now it's part of our process. It doesn't really bother us. And the pro is that we are able to tap into a much bigger talent pool, right? Then I would be able to get wherever my HQ is in Ahmedabad, right? So rather than bringing India to Ahmedabad, I can just go to India wherever it is. We have someone in Kotdwara, and he's really talented, and he doesn't want to leave Kotdwara. So fine, I welcome his contributions to our company, and that's the biggest pro that I would say of. But yeah, it's not without its challenges, for sure.